In the last 20 years, I ran a business here in Raleigh called Team Nimbus. It was a small business advisory business, and I focused on working with small business owners, particularly in the area of client acquisition, growing their business. I did that in a number of ways. I ran what are called peer advisory groups or mastermind groups. I also ran a program that most people would call a class. That was a 13-session program that gave the participants the strategies, the tactics that they could utilize in their business to grow. Prior to that, I spent 28 years in a corporate career, mostly in sales and marketing. Again, focused primarily on the small business market. I had a number of responsibilities other than direct sales and service. I won't go into all of that right now. I may reference it from time to time as we talk today. So after last week's, or 2 weeks ago, the meeting, the partner, I'll be candid. I saw something that I see consistently working with small business owners. And that is that without regard to their passion and their ability to do technically what their business does to deliver their product or service, there's a gap in understanding or knowing some critical and basic things about business and what it takes to be successful in business. And so as I listened to what people's challenges were, what I happened to keep hearing was the absence of the basics. And I'm a firm believer that if you put something on quicksand, it's going to sink. If you can create a foundation, there's a good chance whatever you put on it will be able to stay. So this discussion tonight is focused on giving small business owners some things that are foundational in my experience and my learning to have a successful business. And there is a key actually in this title slide. When I thought about this, I thought, well, let's call it things that you need to know to have a successful small business. But small business success is more about execution and doing than it is about knowing. And so you can see I scratched out things you need to know and changed it to things you need to do something about. Now, the way I run a workshop or a session, no matter where I am, is there are a couple of things. And I'm going to share this because this is the way that I want you to listen, okay? My intention is that you leave here with something you're either gonna do to move your business towards the level of success you want, or there's something you're doing that you're gonna stop doing because it doesn't move you there, okay? And so I want you to listen not for the information, but for the insight, or what I call in my business BFOs, blinding flashes of the obvious, that will move you to action somehow, because results comes from doing, results do not come from knowing, okay? And at the end of the session, I'm gonna go around the room and ask everybody to share what's the most significant insight you have. And as a result of that insight, what are you either going to start doing or what are you going to stop doing, okay? So you know that now. So when I get there, you won't be surprised by that. So with that having been said, here's the thing I want to start with. Small business success is extraordinary. And here's why I say that. Number one, 85% of small businesses do not open their doors in the 5th year. That means only 15% of small businesses exist 5 years or more. Now, will say that the vast majority of that 85% don't exist in 5 years because they failed. But that's not the total set. Many of them failed. Some of them, the owner just decides, I'm done, without regard to how successful the business is. The business is sold. My point is the 85% isn't all failure, okay? But I think you'd agree that anytime something is only 15%, that's exceptional. Would you agree with me? Okay. Here's the second thing. Only 4% of businesses ever produce $1 million in annual revenues. Yeah. And less than that repeat it. Okay? So if there's something that 96% of businesses don't achieve, would you assume or would you agree that if only 4% achieve it, it's extraordinary? Okay? All right. The third point around that, and so here's my point about that. Extraordinary results require extraordinary effort. You don't create a successful business in the margin. Business is hard, okay? Tremendous opportunity in business, but it isn't something you do in your spare time and produce success. Now here's the thing, you all have seen people that you don't think are capable and have very successful businesses. It's because they put in an extraordinary effort, okay? You don't have to be a genius to have a successful business. You don't even have to be smart, but you do have to work, you do have to put in an extraordinary effort. What I experience with a lot of the business owners I've worked with over the last, I'm just going to say 20 years, is that they didn't realize that when they started. And when they started, they had the passion, they had the energy, they had the resources, but they went at it thinking, if I'm in business, I'm going to be successful. And by the time they develop enough experience to come to the realization that it takes an extraordinary effort, they're worn out, they're broke, their passion is gone. Okay?
All the above.
Yeah. So, if you got something you're starting, put in extraordinary effort, because that's what it takes. Most businesses just aren't successful. But anybody, if they know it's going to take an extraordinary effort, has an opportunity to bring forth that extraordinary effort. Okay? Any questions about that? All right. It's also, by the way, the reason that when I talk to a business owner and they say, we had this conversation 2 weeks ago. Tell me your name again, please. Alicia. Alicia and I had this conversation 2 weeks ago. When I hear a business owner that's doing this and that, my counsel to them is zero in on one thing. Get it up, get it going, get it successful, then go to the next thing. Because if you spread your resources, you actually end up not having enough for any one of those opportunities. Okay? So that's that. All right. I thought it'd be valuable to share with you the characteristics of successful business owners, or some things about successful business owners and successful businesses. This is based on interviews that have been done with Inc. 5000 business owners. Now, you may not know, but the Inc. 5000, there's a magazine called Inc. Every year they produce a list of the 5,000 fastest growing small businesses in America. Okay? If you're going in business, want to know business, you ought to go get the Inc. 5000. You'll find out about 40 of those businesses are in the triangle every year, and you ought to go meet those business owners. You can learn something from them. Okay? But that's the Inc. 5000. So these are successful business owners, at least relative to having the fastest growing business. Okay? Now, having said that, let me tell you, a business can't get on the Inc. 5000 list without applying to possibly be one of the 5,000. So it's not like they look at every business. Okay, I'll just share that. Because I don't want to misrepresent the data. Okay, but they apply, and out of all those that apply, they pick the 5,000. They verify the revenue growth, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I bet you know who they are. Okay, all right. So the owners. What are the owners like of these fastest growing businesses? One, they're acutely aware of their incompetence, and they're deeply confident. Okay, so if you talk to them, none of them think they know everything. You follow me? None of them think they know everything. But they are confident whatever it is they need to get done, they can get it done. All right? Secondly, they believe in teams even when they are bad team players. I'll tell you a little anecdote about this. An associate of mine actually interviewed some of these business owners in the Newport News, Virginia Beach area, and he had called all these business owners to schedule interviews, and there was one business owner that was not in town. And so he goes, well, when will he be back so I can schedule an interview? And the person that he was talking to says, well, he only comes in December, around Christmas, to thank the employees for their work, right? So my friend, his name happens to be Art, decided, well, I just won't interview that person, right? He went on about his business, interviewed the rest. Around December, he gets a phone call. It's this owner. And the owner says, I understand you're interviewing 5,000 business owners, and I want you to interview me. So Art says, okay, and they schedule it. And he asks him, well, why did you want me to interview? He says, well, I want to know what's going on. You're talking to all the others, right? But he asked him why he only came to the business once a year. And the owner said, look, he said, when I came up with this business idea, I knew that it required teamwork. He says, and I am the worst team player there is. He said, so I hired a general manager and I left town. And I don't come into this business except to acknowledge the employees once a year. Okay? So you don't have to be a team player to embrace team. And in fact, but there's another thing, it's not in this data, but another trend among owners of fastest growing businesses, they will tell you they get themselves out of the way as fast as possible in that business. Okay? It's absolutely. So the other thing, their businesses are well funded. Now, let me tell you how they do this. Or let me tell you a little something about that. They don't do anything in their business that they don't have the resources to do. If there's something they want to do and they don't have the money, they do one of two things. They stop and getting the money becomes the priority. And they go find the money, okay? Or they go back down the list and say, I got this much money. What is the something I can do that requires this much money? They don't ever try to do something without the necessary resource. Let that sink in. They don't try to do something a less expensive way, a less resource intensive way. They see what something is, they figure out what the resource is, and they either get the resource or they don't do it. Yes, sir. Oh, you just wait. All right. Next thing is they don't experience competition like the rest of us. What I mean by that is they don't see somebody else in the same business as they are as competition. They will go, no, they'll go talk to them. They'll share experiences. They'll learn from each other. Because what they know, among other things, is the market's always big enough. If you're a small business, now this may not be the case for enterprise-sized businesses, okay? But if you're a small business, the market's always big enough for one more. You figure out something that's unique about how you bring it to the market as opposed to how they bring it to the market, so they don't worry about other people that do what they do. They don't go, well, I can't talk to Carlos because he's going to steal my secrets. Well, the truth in small business, you ain't got no secrets. Right. True, okay? Small businesses seldom have intellectual property, etc. They're winning because of their executing, more so than they got something that nobody else has, okay? And remember, all I'm talking about tonight is small businesses. This doesn't apply to big businesses, just like those of us as small business owners find out very painfully at some point what applies for big business doesn't apply for small businesses. Okay. The next thing, they have a very unique relationship with their employees. They hire slow and they fire fast. They don't interview, and I interview Carlos, and Carlos is really good, so I hire Carlos. That ain't the way they do it. They interview Carlos, Carlos is really good. They interview Johnny, Johnny ain't. They interview you, you are. They'll get 2 or 3 people that are good at the job, and then they pick from people that they know can do the job. Very different than how us as small business owner, most of the other small business owner does it. We hate to interview, we're scared to make the selection, so the first person we find that looks like they might be able to do the job, we hire, right? And when they don't work out, guess what? We have to start all over. If we find 2, 3, 4 people that are quote unquote qualified, and I hire Carlos and Carlos doesn't work out, I just pick up a phone, call Johnny, say, Johnny, you know, I've got this job now. Are you still available? Are you interested? Johnny says, no, I call you. I don't have to start the process all over, okay? Secondly, new business is no problem. What I mean by that, they have tended to their challenge of acquiring clients. The problems they have in their business aren't the problems of getting clients, because they tend to that as a priority. They have figured that out. By the way, that's the only way they could be a fastest growing business. Okay? Now they have problems. They may have capacity problems. They may have problems of being able to hire enough people. They may have quality problems delivering, but they ain't got problems with the business coming to it, because they have solved that. Because that's the setup for fixing every other problem. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. They have flexible schedules. I won't go into any detail about that. And they trust others. You know, they're not running around with their business. Well, I'm not going to tell this employee this because they might go steal it and go start their own business, right? They're not, they trust others that they operate with. That's not just in their business, but throughout. Over 90% of them use coaches or peer groups. And the point I want to make with that is it goes back to the very first thing. They're acutely aware of their incompetence. They don't try to have all the answers. They know they don't have all the answers, and they get support around them, okay? They have major involvement in the community, and just so you know, 86% of these owners were male, and 83% of them were white, okay? Statistically, if you want to know who were they, that's what the demographic was. Well, I'm not done, that's right. Okay, so what are the businesses like? Marketing, the average small business spends 10.3% of their revenues on marketing and promotion. The fastest growing businesses spend 19% on average. Okay? They don't skimp on marketing, promoting, advertising. You remember I said they don't have a problem with new business. They've solved that problem. That's an indicator of that. Secondly, go ahead.
Coke is at 25%.
Yeah, Coke does 25 cents out of every dollar. goes to marketing and promotion. 25 cents out of every dollar. Now, they do mass marketing. They do mass marketing. Okay? A small business can't afford to do 25%. These guys and gals that grew to be the fastest at 19, I promise you, the day after they were announced on the Inc. 5000 list, they reduced their advertising budget. Because they were in the race to be, you with me? They were really investing in that growth, quote unquote, till they get there. Makes perfect sense, right? 47% of the average small businesses are partnerships. When you look at the Inc. 5000 fastest growing business, 53% are partnerships. It continues to indicate that successful business owners know you don't try to do it by yourself. If you look, that's a pattern that keeps coming up in this data. If you look at their staff size, if the fastest growing business was between 2.5 and 5 million, the average staff was 25. For the fastest growing was 34. In other words, they don't think in terms of let me be efficient. They are more focused on being effective first, and then they can work on efficiency. Okay? And they also are that way because they hire in advance of the need. They prepare for the growth they're pursuing. Okay? And then you see for staff on larger size, you can look at what the revenue per employee is for the various size businesses. And I will tell you, that's a key metric in a business. You know, how productive are your employees? Okay? All right. Biggest mistake they made in the first year, according to them. 45% of them didn't have enough capital. You know, we talk about uncapitalized businesses. You know, you don't want to go into a business with just an idea. You go into a business with an idea, you create a plan. In that plan, it tells you how much resource you're going to need to execute it, and you accumulate those resources through a range of means, but you acquire that resource that it takes to make that plan work. Then you can focus on that execution. Bad fit with employees, 20%. It's a mistake. And that was, they probably started out, you know, I talked to Carlos. Carlos looks like he can do the job. I hired Carlos. I haven't told him or asked him anything about the culture of the business, what his goals are, etc. You know, and then I find out, oh, there's not a fit between my business and Carlos. Bad fit with the partners, 12%. Yeah, you're not always going to pick the right partner. In fact, I'm surprised it's only 12%. They spent too much, 11%, didn't test their products, 8%. But that's a sense of what their first year problems were. Now, obviously, if they ended up being the fastest growing small business, they went at it and fixed those problems. Now, I'll tell you what my experience is. What we will say is businesses fail because they're undercapitalized, okay? And the thought that creates is they didn't acquire enough startup money to take them through the start of the business, okay? But I've come to learn from my experience, you also capitalize the business through the revenues. You grow your business. So if you're not growing the business, you're going to have a capital problem. Because it's revenue, it's money, okay? And this is where, I think most businesses start without enough capital, okay? But then I think it gets aggravated because they don't handle the challenge of client acquisition. And so they're not bringing in sufficient revenues either, okay? Now, having enough capital means not only having enough money to do what the business has to do, but the owner's got to have enough financial resources that they can live until the business can pay them. And that's often where us as business owners miss. One, we don't create bare bone budgets that we're going to live on. And then two, we don't know, we don't realize that we can't take every dollar out of the business or we'll starve the business. And so we're trying to eat. We make $1 in the business. We take 75 cents out to compensate ourselves. And the business starves because it's only got a quarter. It can't buy any more product. It can't buy any advertising. It can't keep the lights on. Okay? So there are two sides to that coin, really. There's enough capital to support the business owner. There's enough capital to support the business. Okay. Sources of funding. This, I think, is a big deal. 46% of them got it internally. They didn't go to the markets for money. 34% was mostly internal. So that's 80% of the fastest growing businesses. Most of their money they generate internally. Okay? Internal, external, about 50-50 is 13%. Mostly external, 6%. Completely external, 1%. I will tell you, my pet peeve, I love the government for trying to help economic development of small business, but I think they have created a dangerous understanding for new small business owners that where you're supposed to get your capital is out there. All right, so their first office, 57% of them worked out of their home, 19% of them had a traditional office, 8% had something else, 7% of them worked out of co-working locations, 6% garage, 3% coffee. Now, the thing I want you to notice is only 1 in 5 went out and leased office space. Okay? They kept their expenses and they kept their overheads as low as they could. That implies that gave them resource to quote unquote invest in the business. Okay, or invest in getting clients or serving clients. Right. Okay. All right, enough about the profile of fastest growing business owners. When did they start drawing salary? Okay. Immediately, 18% of them. After 6 months of the business running, 21% of them. After a year, 24% of them. Okay. 2 years, 25%, 3 years, 8%, 4% waited 4 years. The point of this chart is the business is not gonna support you initially, most likely. So if you haven't saved up or have a spouse who has said, I'll provide all the household income while you get the business going, you with me? Now, I'm always talking about business plans. If you do your business plan and run your revenue and expense projections, you'll discover this before you open the doors. And therefore you can plan for it. Yeah, well, a business plan ain't a business plan without a 5-year revenue and expense forecast. Okay? I won't even read a business plan that I can't turn to and find spreadsheets. Okay? I tell them, take it back. I don't want to see it. Because words ain't a business. Yes. Well, when you go in to borrow money, that's all they're really interested in. Because that's what they're going to loan the money against. Is there a stream of revenues? Are you going to eat it all up in the expenses or not? And are you going to have enough left over to service this daggone loan I'm going to give you?
Yeah, we like that you want to save the world.
Right, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we got plenty of people going to say that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
This is what I've heard over the last 18 years.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, see, and here's the thing. The bank ain't in the business of saving the world. The bank's in the business of making money off of giving money.
Yeah.
So, of course, that's what they're interested in. All right? Okay. How many hours does the owner work? I'll let you all just look at that. then and now, when they started, and then once they had the success, the business was successful. Okay? And as you can see, right, that's right, that's per week. There, a large percentage are in the 40 to 80 hours a week range. Okay? Now, let's go back to my very first slide about small business success takes exceptional effort, extraordinary effort. Okay? A job takes average effort. I got to the point where I get away doing one heck of a job in about 25, 30 hours a week. Okay? I used to not work on Fridays. And nobody had a problem with that because what had to be done was you with me? A business ain't like that. Okay, this is all right, I'm gonna move to another topic now. Anything about business owners or what's it like to be a business owner of a fast-growing business? Okay. We might be on this slide for a while. So I want to talk about what a business is. And here's why I want to do that. My experience is that if you've got a framework to deal with something, it makes the problem to solve more solvable, less complex. Because I know what it's about. Okay? So I got a business. If I know what a business is about, when a problem comes up, it's probably less complex to solve that problem or make that decision because I can figure out what box it's in at least. So that's where I'm coming from with what I'm going to share with you all now. Okay? Does everybody kind of buy in? Or are you at least intrigued with that thought enough for me to go forward? Okay. So I just want you to pay attention to those blue arches right now. Okay? A guy named Peter Drucker, he's considered like the guru of business. He did a lot of work in studying businesses, codifying businesses, etc. Okay? He's accepted historically as an authority. He says there are 3 processes in a business. Okay? Everything's happening in a business, you put in these 3 processes. And those processes are lead generation. That's, in essence, gathering the people or the businesses that you want to do business with, that you want to be your customers. Lead conversion, that's turning those people into clients or customers. And the third process is fulfillment. You with me? Lead conversion, or sales, okay? Now, if you embrace that, then any problem, challenge in a business falls in one of those 3 places. And if you know where it falls, it'll give you something about what to do about it. So for example, when somebody asks me a question about social media, I don't know nothing about social media, but my question is, what process are you attempting to utilize it in? Well, it'll differ. But if you said lead generation, I can tell you some things you need your social media to do. You with me? If you tell me conversion, I can tell you, well, it needs to do this, and maybe you ought to be thinking about this element of social media as opposed to this element of social media. And if you're talking about fulfillment, I'm going to tell you something else. But if you say, how do I do my social media? I have to go, I don't know yet. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know where it fits. See, social media is not a process. It's a media. You know, there's written media, there's digital media, there's social. Y'all follow me?
You don't need social media if you got 100 people on the streets.
Well, but you can use social media to get those 100 people as part of lead generation. And you can then use social media to convert them. But the social media that will gather them will not convert them, and vice versa.
Right.
Yeah, see, we try to use it for everything. You know, and that's why I'm making this point. All right. Now, Drucker goes on to identify something else. And that is that if you want to grow a business, you have to focus on one of these three processes. Which one do you think it is?
You said what?
If you want to grow the business, you need to really focus on one of these three processes. Which one do you think he said you have to focus on?
Lead generation.
Okay. Anybody else?
Lead conversion.
Where do you think most business owners spend their time when they want to grow? Well, that's true. That's exactly right. That is where they spend their time. You have the correct answer. It is lead generation. Before you can sell people or businesses, you got to have businesses and people to sell. Okay? And if you get enough people that you want to do business with you, then you can get a certain percentage of them to do business with you. But if you don't have enough that you're connected with somehow that you want to do business with you, you can't convert it. See, that gets in the whole discussion about target markets. Who is it that I want to do business with? Now, what we tend to do is we define that. Now, many times we define it very broadly. That's a problem, but that's a whole different problem. Okay? But after you define them, as a small business, you need to identify them. You can't develop a relationship with doctors. Let's say your business serves doctors. Okay? You can't go into, there aren't doctors. There's Dr. Smith, Dr. Stevens, Dr. Jones, and until you identify them, you can't develop a relationship with them. Am I making sense? So you define your market, then you identify who the heck is in that market. I'm going to ask you, what is it you are attempting to accomplish with what it is you're just describing?
My intention is being felt, and the intention is what.
Well, what I put in my communication should be related to what I'm trying to accomplish. Okay? Now, if I got my market. I know my market is small business owners with 3 to 5 years experience in the business. Okay? Then I want to develop some level of connectedness or relationship with as many business owners with 3 to 5 years experience as possible. Am I going to put anything out about working with a startup? No. Am I going to put anything in there about this business owner that's celebrating their 10th year? Right? But I am probably going to put something in there about how I was talking with a business owner the other day, and he was celebrating because he was finally over the startup hump. He's now in his 3rd year. If I'm a business owner in about that same level of experience, I might go, that could be me. Is this making sense to y'all? Now, if I put that in and then sent it to my LinkedIn database, okay, and I happen to be connected with a lot of corporate people, would they pay any attention to that message? Why? They don't care nothing about 3 to 5 years. For a business, they're running the corporate game, right? You with me? And my point, I got you, hold on. And it doesn't matter how well I write about that 3 to 5 year experience as a business owner if I'm communicating it to the wrong people. It would be interesting, my point is, it would be interesting to some segment of people. To the other segment, they could care less. They're busy looking for something that they have an interest in. Here's what I'm offering. Y'all just kind of bear with me. We think people are interested in us. People are interested in themselves. Okay? There's nothing I can say about me that will excite you unless it happens to be something that somehow you identify with. Okay? And as business owners, we need to get over it. We need to get over thinking it's about us. It's about our market. I'm trying to connect to Johnny's need. Because until Johnny has a sense that whatever it is I do might address his need, he frankly could care less how good I do what I do. And I don't blame him. You know, he's got his world he's living in. He's got his challenges. He'd like to do something about them, right? Am I making sense? That's also why it's so important to target your market, because you want to be talking to them about them, frankly, not about you. And if you happen to be talking to them by sharing something about you, you ought to be sharing something that you think they would have some level of experience with, or possibly had experienced it too, or they aspire to. Does that make sense? Okay. So if I'm talking about how to double your small business, folks in corporate could care less about that. That's not their game. Now, if I wrote something about how to accelerate your career advancement, they'd be all over that. Even if the process was exactly the same. Okay? I'd put it in one suit if I'm talking to business owners. I'd put it in another suit if I'm talking to people that have a job and are in, I'm going to say are in corporate. Okay? But the things you need and the steps you take could be identical. Am I getting through?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
getting through? Okay. So 3 processes in a business, okay? And the one that you need to focus on, literally, until you don't have a problem getting clients or having someone that you can present your products and services to, you want to be focusing on what generically is called lead generation. Now you can do that through networking, generating word of mouth, email. I mean, there are many, many, many ways. But until I accumulate enough people to propose to, I'm not going to be worried about proposing. Okay? So I will tell you, when I was in my business, I knew I needed to have 7 appointments a week. Okay? I never got excited about a presentation unless I had 7 appointments on my books. Because if I didn't have 7 appointments on my books, I was not going to be able to make enough sales that week. Just make, okay? Because nobody has a 100% closing ratio. If they do, they're starving. Because they ain't talking to enough people. And I can tell you, I used to run these programs. I had 1,000 participants in the programs over the years. I used to always ask them, who has a closing ratio above 50%? Okay? And people would raise their hand. And I'd say, if you have a closing ratio above 50% and you have enough clients, please keep your hand up. Out of 1,000 people, only one person over 10 years kept their hand up. Okay. Now, I know a little bit about marketing. I know even more about sales. Because that used to be how I live. But you gotta have enough people to propose to. So let me give you an example. The time we were here, a number of the businesses seemed to be retail oriented. They did events, et cetera, right? If one of them were to come to me and say, how do I grow my business? My question would be, when you do an event, how do you capture the name and contact information of everybody that hits your booth? Okay? And if they didn't have one, I would start working with them on a way to do it. Okay? And then I tell them, now the next event, you send an email to all of those people announcing that you're going to be at this event, invite them to come by, blah, 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 blah. Don't depend on the traffic that the festival generates. You want to focus on how much traffic can you generate, right? And if you did that every time you were at an event, at some point, you'd have a considerably large mailing list, and people would start responding to the invitation, whether they bought from you the last time they came by or not. Because what we know is it takes 7 touches to get a yes. So that's the other thing. We think, because we don't have sales experience, that if I pitch you and you say no, that's it. No, that's just the first no. You're going to tell me no 6 times on average.
Right.
And then you're going to say yes. Okay? My job is to make sure I give you 7 opportunities.
Right.
I ain't supposed to try to decide, are you the one? See where I'm coming from? My job is to figure out how. So I told you all I ran this 13-week program. Why do you think it ran 13 weeks?
Probably made me pitch you for 7 and said no.
No, but by the end of 13 weeks, they had a relationship with me.
Right.
I could have given them, in fact, I did. I modified it one time, one of the bigger mistakes I made, and I did it in two days, 8 to 5, because I could get the material across. But I didn't have near the level of relationship. Okay? And why do people do business with who they do business with? Yeah. All things being equal or unequal, people prefer to do business with and through people they know, like, and trust. It ain't got a dang thing to do with merit. It has everything to do with relationship. Now, I'll offer you this. In my corporate life, at one point, I was responsible for the curriculum development and delivery to the sales force of a $7 billion division of a company. Now, I may or may not be able to sell, but I think you'd figure out I know a lot about selling and have seen a lot about selling. Do you agree with that? I don't know the second reason people buy. I mean, that's how predominant know, like, and trust is. And then what do we do as small business owners? We go, one, I'm gonna go sell, I'm gonna go interact with these people I don't know, and when I get good, then I'm gonna go talk to my family and my friends. Okay? It should be just the opposite. Because they know you, they like you, they trust you. It's gonna hurt more when they say, no, I'm not gonna buy. But the probability that they will either say yes or they will turn to somebody else they know and say, go talk to Carlos,
Right.
is much higher than talking to somebody that you ain't never met before and they don't know you. And then you're going to create less relationship because you're going to be busy talking about your product and service and how good it is in your company. That's not what a relationship's built around. Does this make sense to people? Okay, yeah. You know, and so you get them in the lead generation by developing some kind of relationship. Now you ain't got to be buddy with them. When I was in the business, I sent a good bit of email, and I used to have people tell me, Bill, you know, I got your email. I don't read it, but I got a folder called Bill Davis. Now, I'm going to tell you something. That's a pretty daggone good relationship. You with me? I mean, I am top of mind for them. They don't know what I'm saying because they ain't reading it, but they think it might be good enough that they keep it. So I ain't talking about buddy like Carlos and I are, right? But there is relationship in business, and for small business, that is the driver to acquiring clients. Okay? And that continues to be the driver probably until a business gets in the range of $1 million or more a year in annual revenues. Okay? So I'm going to kind of assume for those of us in the room, you know, we probably are under that umbrella. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I'll tell you something else about relationship. Relationship is a function, this is for the engineers, so Johnny will like this. Relationship is a function of frequency and recency. How often do you communicate with me, and when was the last time you communicated with me? Okay? So if you have a high level of frequency in communication, that also takes care of recency, and it is a key factor to level of relationship. Okay, so a business is a set of processes, okay? So if I got a social media problem, this is what I want you to take away and have a conversation with your social media person tomorrow. What part of the business are we talking about? Good, okay. I just want to make sure you miss it. I told him when we were coming over here, I was going to say something that I wanted him to take to a meeting he's having tomorrow. All right. Yeah. So let me show you something else, and I'm going to stop and take questions because it's almost 8 o'clock, and we're going to be out of here we'll be out of here at 8 o'clock. All right, we're going to be out here at 8:15. You see those red lines? All of you have heard about the sales funnel, and we think the sales funnel is the process. I want you to see where the sales funnel falls in the client acquisition process. It ain't the ball game. It's a critical part of the ball game, okay? But it ain't the ball game. And the only way you can have enough stuff in the funnel, which is part of lead conversion, is to work the lead generation. A lot of people doing ClickFunnels with an intention of selling.
Oh, so then
And guess what? And those ClickFunnels, and those ClickFunnels don't produce the desired result because I got no relationship. It's kind of like I was wandering down the road and all of a sudden, here's this thing for me to buy. Frankly, you shouldn't run that ClickFunnel other than to people you've already been connected with and developed that we're here together because mother-daughter relationship means something to us. And here's something that allows you to act upon that. But they ain't even in your conversation yet. So I can tell you, no disparagement intended, that you're going to be disappointed with the results of that ClickFunnels. They probably aren't going to buy the product at the rate that you want because you ain't got no relationship with them. You with me? Here's the thing that new people in business don't know. You know, we know what everybody is speaking about. Direct mail is the most effective marketing tool still. It outproduces social media. And we got all these small business owners running around here trying to figure out how to use social media. And I'm gonna say it this way, and they're blowing in the wind because they don't know who they're communicating with, as opposed to taking a tool that can be highly targeted. You know, you can send out an email communication, and I can tell who opened it, who didn't open it. If they unsubscribed from the list, I understand who unsubscribed. I can offer you this. I can show you an email technique that can get 50% of people on an email list to open email.
Free one.
No. What's the key?
Using that name?
No, the key, well, the thing that people respond to most is who it's from. The second thing they respond to most is the subject line. Now, so here's what you do. You write an email, okay? You come up with 10 subject lines. Watch this, the first email you send out, you pick your whatever you think your best subject line is, and you send it, okay? Well, it goes out, 10% of the people open it, right? You have the email service, because it does this automatically, segment out who got it and didn't open it, right? The ones that didn't open it, you change the subject line, send them the exact same email. They don't know what's in it, they didn't open the first one.
Right.
And you do that 10 times, 50% of the list will open at some point. But we'll sit here and send it, 10% open it, right? And we'll go rewrite the whole body of the email. Because we don't know and study what's the best tool for us as small businesses. Yeah, but we spend all this time writing all these emails. You use the same email, just change something, you know. And we spend no time generating great subject lines. Okay, now you can't do nothing about your name. Your name's your name. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. But the second thing that has them open it, you can do something about that. You can do something about that. And then the ones that open the first one, you have the next email go to them. It's got the next step in the process. When you send that first email to the group that didn't open with the new subject line, those that opened it, you send them that second email. And you keep working your target market or those that you have identified in your target market. Okay? All right, now I'm going to stop. Listen, I think you all can tell I could go on forever. If invited, I'll come back, but I'm going to stop tonight. I don't want to wear you all out. But remember I said at the start that when I completed, I was going to go around the room and ask everybody to share what's the most significant insight you've had out of tonight's discussion. And as a result of that insight, what are you either going to start doing or stop doing? Because it is